Hey guys, welcome back to JK Fishing. It's almost winter here. It's getting a little bit too cold for us to use the boat, so we're going to winterize it and prepare it for the cold winter ahead here in Niagara. What we're going to show you today is how we are going to service our Yamaha 150 outboard. It's a 2-stroke motor and our 9.9 horsepower 4-stroke kicker motor that we have on the Sea Hunt here. We're going to show you how we fog the motors. We're going to explain how we demo how we change the lower unit oil, and explain to you guys what we've done with the fuel system on the boat already to prepare it for winter. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, so the first thing with servicing the motor for winterizing is you have to get the right materials and equipment. So the first thing that we've got is some fogging oil, which we're going to use to fog the engine and spray inside the cylinders and the spark plugs. The second thing is marine gear case lubricant, which we're going to use along with this pump for changing the lower unit oil. And lastly, we have some silicone protectant, which we're going to spray to avoid corrosion on different parts of the motor so that it doesn't rust over the winter. So the first thing that we did to prepare the boat for winter is we added some fuel stabilizer into the large fuel tank that we have on the boat here. We did it when we were filling up the tank so that it would get mixed in with all the fuel. So we used 1 can of seafoam, which is the right amount. Always check the right amounts for the stabilizer and the fuel treatment before you put it in, based on how big your tank is. What that will do when we run the motor now for about 10 minutes is it's going to get the fuel running through the motor, through both the kicker and the main motor, so that they're prepared for winter. Okay guys, first step is we're going to take the cowling off the motor. This one's pretty easy. We've got 3 clips on here, and it comes off quite easily. We'll put it off to the side so it doesn't get damaged. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get water going to the intake of the motor to make sure that it's not running dry. Some people will actually prepare their motor on the water. That's what we did last fall when we were fogging it. We did it while the motor was still in the water. Now, what I've got here is a set of muffs, and what I've done here is actually put a shutoff valve right here on the muffs, which is great because I don't have to run back to the tap to turn it off or turn it on whenever I need to. So a simple turn of this will actually get the water flowing. So we're going to put this onto the motor right on the lower unit here. Try and cover as much as you can of the intakes here on the motor, so that the water can actually get into the motor when you're running it. Okay, so it will naturally suck that water in once we get the motor started, and it's very important when you're doing this to make sure that we see water coming out of the motor and the water is not getting too hot. That means that it's getting enough water to keep the engine cool. Okay guys, so first thing, in order to fog the motor, we're going to start it up again shortly, but first I'm going to take off the air intake cover. There's some Phillips head screws that are holding this in place. Once I have this removed, we'll be able to spray the fogging oil to each of the different carburetor air intakes that we have here. So it's going to be pretty loud, so we won't have audio here, but you'll see what we're doing. Okay, so we've got the water running to the boat again. We're going to start it up. We're going to spray this fogging oil into each of the different cylinders here, and we're going to continue to do that until eventually the motor stalls. Okay, should be pretty easy. So now that we've started fogging the oil through the carburetor, now what we're going to do is we're going to spray some fogging oil inside each of the spark plug holes, and then turn the motor over once to get some fogging oil in there. We're actually going to replace the spark plugs, but we're going to wait till the spring when it's nice and warm to do that. For now, just storing it should be fine. So I'm going to take out the rest of the spark plugs. As you see, I've taken one out here, and I'll show you what we're doing. Okay, so as I said, we're going to spray some of the fogging oil into each of the spark plug holes on both sides of the motor. Ours is 6 cylinders, so we're going to spray some in there. Good. So now that I've sprayed the fogging oil into the spark plug holes, I'm going to actually turn the motor over a couple times here. Just to get the cylinders turned inside the motor, and we should be good. All right guys, so the next thing I like to do every winter before I store the boat is change the lower unit oil. It's relatively easy for you to do. You just need the right materials. What we've got here, as I said earlier, we've got this marine gear case lube from Yamaha Lube, which is perfect for what we need. We've got this oil pump, which we're going to use to put new oil into the lower unit. And we've got a basic flathead screwdriver that's going to allow us to drain the oil here. So basically what we're doing is we're going to remove this top screw, which is where which will allow the oil to come out of the bottom here. Relatively easy to do here. Now, one thing I'm doing here is I have a tray to collect the oil underneath, and I've trimmed the motor so that it's flat. You see no oil comes out. We will see it start to come out once we remove this top here, okay? The oil actually looks really, really clean. I wonder if we should even bother doing it this year. They changed it last fall. It is looking a little bit milky, but I'm not sure what we want to do here. Yeah, it's a little bit milky, so what we're going to do is we're going to change it. Even though it's not dark, I would like to put some fresh oil in here.
There it comes. Yeah, it's a little dark.
Yeah, a little bit milky, this oil, so I think that means we're getting a bit of water inside. So I'll have to figure that out maybe in the spring and see if we've got a problem here or not. Okay, so the whole lower unit has been drained. We've let it drip out for quite some time now. You're going to see that it's a little bit milky in color, which we noticed when it was coming out. This indicates that there's probably a leak. There's some water getting into the lower unit. So we're going to have to get this serviced next spring. We will replace the oil right now. But apparently it's the prop shaft seal that probably needs replacement, which we'll take into the shop and get them to do that. It's a professional needs to do that work for us. So what we're going to do now though is we're going to seal this up. So we're going to fill the oil into the lower unit now. I put this adapter in place where the drain was, and I'm just screwing on before I put this pump into the oil bottle. You can get these, they're relatively cheap, maybe 10 or 15 bucks to get one of these. We're gonna hook it into the oil as we showed you earlier. Now we leave this one open because as we're gonna pump the oil in, okay, we're going to actually, when it's full, we're gonna see the oil come out the top. So we're gonna keep this tray underneath to collect that oil. Once it's full, it should start to leak out that top. Okay, so we're just a little bit short on completely filling this up. Typically what you'll see as you fill the lower unit with oil, once it gets to the top, it's gonna start to leak out the top here. Ours didn't because we ran out. Not a big deal because we're not gonna be running the motor, and we're gonna be replacing the seal in the spring anyways. So what we'll do is put the top screw back in there, and what we're gonna do is just now take out the bottom. You should be prepared with the screw to plug it in so that you don't lose too much oil dripping out the bottom. It should be okay since we got the top one in. Shouldn't come out too fast. Once we get that out, you'll see it's going to start to come out a little bit. Drip very slowly. So the sooner that we can get this in, the better. And there we go. The lower unit oil has been changed. Okay, so last thing I'm going to do as I winterize the main motor on the boat here is I'm going to spray this Silicone Protectant Lubricant from Yamaha Lube. I'm just going to spray various parts of the motor because this is going to be stored outside in the cold, and so I don't want any corrosion or rust to start. So I'm just going to look for areas where I think that there might be some corrosion that might happen. Some of the bolts, some of the screws Did the outside of the engine block here as well. And just to protect it. It's like precaution here so that we don't have any problems when we get into the spring. So now we're working on a 9.9 four-stroke kicker. We're using the same fogging oil. We're spraying it in the one air intake here. And we'll spray it until the motor stalls again. Okay, so on the kicker motor, we were going to do the spark plugs, but we realized that we don't have the right socket for these spark plugs here. So we're not going to even attempt it. I think it'll be fine. We're storing this inside anyways, for which you'll see in our next video on how we're going to remove and store the kicker motor inside the garage. So we're going to get this all closed up. Thank you for joining JK Fishing. Hope you learned something today, and we'll see you next spring on the water.